Good morning. Good morning, I'm Andrea John Baptiste, and I am a growth specialist with the Small Business Development Centers at FAU, or SBDC. I'm happy to have those of you here present, and hello to you online. Thank you for tuning in as well. And I'm going to do my best to speak to both sets of audiences. So before we get started, I've told you who I am, and I'm going to ask really quickly, how many of you here, by show of hands, are business owners? Oh, you guys are my favorite audience. How many of you have ever started a business before? 2 people, awesome. Well, this is the right place because we're going to talk about starting with an idea, turning it into a business, and how you can actually do business and be part of this growing town of Davie with great resources and opportunities. And so in just a little while, I'm going to also turn it over to our Town of Davie CRA. Okay, welcome, good morning. So this is exciting. I told you a little bit about who we are. The SBDC is just a national organization in Florida. We are all hosted by a university, and so we are happy to be hosted by FAU. Our partners in the South are hosted by FIU, and those in North Indian River State Colleges. We operate in kind of 3 distinct silos. One with our generalist consulting and consultants who kind of touch all areas of your business. And then we have individuals that are focused on access to capital, so getting you ready for lending and external financing. And then our third group is also our what we call now PTAC, formerly known as Apex, which works with individuals who are interested in contracting with the government. I'm not going to go through our mission. We've talked a little bit about that as well. But so as we're starting a business, let me ask, is there anyone here who wants to share maybe their idea? Just loosely, what do you think, what's your business going to be? Anybody? Any takers?
Aquatic water fitness.
Aquatic water fitness. Awesome. I will be there. I love aquatic water fitness. Are you going to do it here in town of Davie?
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Wonderful. Somebody else here was looking a little, yeah, you're thinking? Maybe sharing? No?
Just same kind of like fitness, group fitness.
Group fitness.
Yes.
Excellent. Wonderful. Excellent. Anybody else? Yes.
Building extreme off-road scooters.
Extreme off-road scooters?
Yeah.
Scooters? Extreme off-road? This is a fun group. Fitness, off-road, awesome. Great. Thank you all for sharing. Wonderful ideas. Excellent. So, some of the success factors for your ideas. A short learning curve. Do you know enough about the industry? Are you into fitness? Are you aquatic? Do you ride your off-road scooters, right? Do you know how to assemble them? Those types of things. Take care of them. Understanding of the marketplace. Who is going to use those scooters? Understand who, understand how they're going to fit, maybe competing against cars and what are those slingshots now, motorcycles, Teslas, electric vehicles, things of that nature. Plan it well. And that's what we're going to talk a lot about today is the planning of this business. Appropriate marketing, get the word out to the right people using the right mechanism or the right modality. Social media is a great tool, but it's not the only tool, and that's what sometimes we only focus on. And sometimes our clients aren't really on social media as much as we would like them to be. Have reasonable expectations, right? In my first year, I'm going to make $20 million. I sure hope you do, and remember your friend down here that you met, right? But is that realistic? Probably not, okay? And I am not here to rain on anyone's parade. I do hope you make that $20 million, but let's look at your projections. Let's look at what might be your SOM, your sizable, obtainable market. What's real within that quadrant or that circle? Varied revenue resources. Many of you have heard different, cliches or thoughts on having multiple epicenters. They say 9 financial centers is the best way, 7 financial centers, but let's just say whatever the number, okay, it should be varied, not the old adage of all the eggs in one basket, right? So are we gonna sell some of those off-road vehicles? Are we going to rent some of those off-road vehicles? Are we going to work with corporate entities who may have outdoor type activities that we are going to contract with them and be their provider? Are we going to be the servicer of those off-road vehicles? Things of that nature, right? So those are definite revenue sources. Same product, but different ways of bringing in that income. Things that will help you to fail. Pretty much the flip side of that, right? You don't know too much about the industry, you don't have the commitment, you haven't done the feasibility, so you haven't really looked to see, right? There are high startup expenses, narrow sources of revenue, failure to look at lifestyle issues. Your lifestyle is critical in entrepreneurship, and you may or may not have already heard that, right? Why? Because if you have a lot of responsibilities on your day-to-day, business ownership is another huge responsibility that can certainly impact, right? So do you have the time, the space, the support? All right, what's a feasibility study? Is it feasible? Should I do this? Will it grow? Is it something that will last for a while, right? And maybe it's not. Maybe it's part of riding a curve, right? One of the, for example, iguana catching. I'm seeing a lot of those businesses pop up. Is it a trend? Is it a part of a curve? Because once we kind of catch and trap them and get it to a point of maintenance, then what happens? I don't know. But most of the guys that are starting these businesses, they know, I'm here, there are tons of iguanas, I'm gonna ride this wave as much as I possibly can, right? Conduct your shoe leather market research. Walk to the store that's your competitor, or your possible collaborator, or your possible client, your possible vendor, right? Do go knock on the doors, go ask the questions. Visiting their website is one thing, yes, right? But go in, observe, sit at the table if it's a restaurant, taste the food, all of those types of things. Conduct your online marketplace research. Again, do the search. FP&L has a business data lookup link, which is to die for. Amazing, amazing information. You can find a lot of potential clients, potential collaborators, potential competitors using that link. Make use of market research tools through the SBDC. We've got a lot of industry research and things of that nature. Identify the strengths and the weaknesses of the competitors' marketing. What's working really, really well for them? What's not working so well? Can I leverage or utilize, right? Replicate what they're doing well, and can I make it better, the things that they are not? Prepare your cash flow projections. It is important in business to understand how much money, have an idea of what your potential revenue can be, in addition to knowing, having a very good handle on what your expenses are going to be, right? You want to know how much it costs to run the business. You need to know that. So as we talk about, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, because one of the things that I always like to share with folks is, as you're putting together your business, you want to ensure that you have a strong support network. And what that is, you should have an attorney. You don't have to have them on retainer, but they should know who you are. They should know who your business is, what they do, and things of that nature, right? At the very least, someone who's looking over your contracts that you're going to sign. At the very least, right? Or creating some templates, some boilerplates for you. Or a CPA, somebody that's going to help start understanding in terms of tax law, liability, assets, payroll, all of that. So your LLC, which is probably, we see quite a bit of LLCs, and many people come to us saying, I'm starting an LLC. And it's certainly at your discretion. It's a hybrid business structure that has some characteristics of a partnership and a corporation. The most important thing about an LLC is that it does separate, okay, it creates that buffer, let's just say. It creates an entity, right? Liability is limited to what they invest into the LLC. So the member's personal assets are protected, with the exception of individual member LLC. So I sign up, I'm an LLC, I may not have the full protection, okay? It's pass-through taxation like a partnership. You only pay income tax once at the individual level. There are two types of that management structure. One is member managed. Okay, so we all come together and we participate in the decision making. The other is a manager managed. And that is, you still have your members, but you have that one person who deals with the day-to-day affairs, okay? The members, the cool thing about an LLC is that the members choose how to share profits and losses, and it's not correlated to the percentage of ownership. So I could be 50% owner, let's just say. You're 25, you're 25, that's 75, and you're 20, right? No, 75, 50, 25 and 25, ooh. Bad math, nobody saw that. Okay, so 50 plus 50, right? And so I've put in the lion's share, but I'm feeling really generous, and this is just, I'm really doing this company because you're my kids and I want you to have a better whatever. So you're going to get 80% of the profits because that's what we agreed with in our partnership agreement, and that's what the state of Florida allows us to do. So it's kind of squirrely, right? But that's what the law allows. So it's not necessarily about what you particularly invested. Advantages and disadvantages in summary, not subject to double taxation, pass through losses to its members, which can reduce your individual tax liability. Your profits are subject to self-employment tax. Ownership is not as freely transferable like stocks in a corporation. And you may not appear as official as a corporation. Some industries and some entities do better as a corporation, especially if you're looking at external financing. Sometimes lenders are more amenable because there's not this squirrely stuff on the inside of a corporation, right? Which there's nothing wrong with this, but it's like, okay, am I lending to the right person? Who really has, ownership and things of that nature? Your C corporation, it's an independent legal entity. It's taxed separately from your shareholder as a charter C corporation with the Internal Revenue Services. So your first thing is, you're going to register your business. You make a decision, right? You have the idea, we're doing off-road vehicles, we're doing Zumba, we're doing fitness, right? And so now what kind of company? All right, I know what this is going to be. What kind of company is it going to be? Is it an LLC or is it a C corporation? And you're going to make, or an S corporation, we'll talk about in a minute. And then you're going to make that determination and register with the state of Florida through SunBiz. Let's see, you must have at least one director, you must appoint officers, you must hold organizational meetings. Did you see all of that for your LLC? No. So it's a little bit, it's a simpler process, right? You're not protected from control by their owner's creditors. Profits are subject to corporate income tax, personal income tax when the shareholders receive dividends. You must appoint a board of directors to manage the business. And it has extensive management requirements, i.e. shareholder meetings and board of directors meetings, okay? This is where a CPA really can help you with setting up a lot of the corporation. The advantages and disadvantages, personal liability protection and unrestricted ownership can also be more attractive to investors because of stricter management requirements, right? So you're not going to be all squirrely and giving out this and doing that and whatever with an LLC. Not that you're going to do that per se, but that's the perception, and oftentimes. It's not subject to self-employment tax. There is what folks will consider double taxation. Formation requirements and formality requirements are way more structured than the LLC. Your S corporation, okay, which is a selection, subcharter S, right? So it has the benefits, it's kind of that hybrid of the LLC and the C Corp. You must have at least one director. You must appoint officers and you must hold organizational meetings, very similar to what we just talked about, right? The S status, you have to do it within 2.5 months if you are going to choose an S status. So we talked about registering the business with the state of Florida, and then, right, you are then going to go over to irs.gov to get your EIN. But you need to have that determination, or when you're doing your EIN, you can select the subcharter S classification so that you achieve the best of both worlds. That's the kind of the phraseology around the S Corp. You can have no more than 100 shareholders. You issue only one class of stock. Your rights to profits is based on stock ownership, right? So what stock you own is your profit, not so with the LLC, right? Advantages and disadvantages, pass-through taxation, salary payment allowance for somebody that's operating here, some of your board members as well, easy formation, flexible management, not subject to self-employment tax, but it is a little bit stricter than the LLC, okay, and is very much aligned with the governance of the C corporation. So we talked about registering the business. So Sunbiz, we talked about IRS. If you're going to do a subcharter S within 2.5 months of registering the business. We also talk about your EIN number, right? And that's critical. You can't do much of anything without it. It becomes, I like to say, the social security number of the business. It's going to travel with this business wherever it goes, that you need it to be able to open your bank account. Some things to think about as you are launching and moving forward and getting your infrastructure, your design, your paperwork together. We just mentioned the EIN. You may need to, if you are selling items, right? Florida Department of Revenue state sales, your state sales tax certificate. Very important. You may also need licensure. The DBPR, Department of Business and Professional Regulations, are there to help you with all of your permits. So specialty type industries, right? Hotels, hotels and restaurants, food businesses, highly regulated, highly permitted. Leasing agencies, things of that nature, employee leasing agencies. So it's important to go to DBPR, look at the industry in which you're operating, and make sure, determine if there are any additional regulations required by the state. Because you may think, well, the state of Florida says this, but you come to town of Davie and they're gonna say, oh, where's all your state of Florida stuff, am I right? Okay, so you need to do it, right? That's always critical. Thinking about your intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, DNAs, your logo, right? Always, that's the first thing that you may want to think about. Are you patenting something? What are you putting out into the world, right? Should it be copyrighted? It's important to think about that. And that's where also having a conversation with the business attorney at the start of your business, it's a good thing. You can almost take some of these things and say, hey, what do you think? Is there anything I need to worry about with my IPs, right? And that's important. Payroll taxes. Can't get away from those. Workers' comp insurance, something to think about. 5 or more employees must have. Your local business tax receipt. And in high-risk industries, I say get your workers' comp right out the door. Don't wait for 5 employees. Local business tax receipts. Town of Davie wants to know that you exist, right? And they want to know that if necessary, you are paying the appropriate share of your taxes. They want to be able to communicate with you and offer you opportunities and to know that you're a legitimate business. And that is going to be for any area in which your business is domiciled. So wherever you decide to plant that business address, even if it is a home-based business, get your county and city or town tax receipt. Insurances to think about: business and commercial liability, product liability. We talked about the workers' comp, professional liability, errors and omissions, directors and officers. I tell all businesses to start off with, find an insurance agent, let them know what your business is, ask them for a list of quotes of all the possible insurances that they think you will need for the life of your business. Start off with, in most cases, your business or commercial liability, Could be product or could be your E&O, depending, or a combination of those three. And there are many others. These are the ones that in most cases you are going to experience and come across, right? But get that quote, get that list, get an understanding. Unfortunately, we see a lot of businesses who were underinsured and bad things have happened, and now they're trying to figure out how to recoup. And they've exhausted the terms of their insurance. And they go, if only I had. And I'm dealing with 3 of those companies right now. So, true stories. So that's important. I know sometimes business owners want to skip that step, but I say, don't skip the step. This is critical. Things to think about when you're looking at operations, right? The location. And Tana Davy is smiling, and they're going to talk about some of their awesome not location specific, but areas. I mean, lots of interesting things going on here as well. But location. So you've got to understand zoning and permitting in some cases as well, have at least an idea, right? Can I have my toxic chemical factory right here on the outskirts of the farming community? I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm guessing probably not. I don't know. But again, those are things that you need to understand. Leasing decisions are challenges. Understanding what it means when I sign that lease. The clock starts ticking. I hear folks saying, well, I can't believe it's taking me 6 months and I'm still paying rent. That's the reality. Regulations on home-based businesses. That is important. Go to your city that you're looking at domiciling the business, or the city that you're living in rather, and find out what are the requirements for home-based businesses. If you do not meet some of the basic requirements, it may, and I'm not talking about for the home-based business, I'm talking about in the future for contracts and things of that nature. They may see, let's see your state, right? Registration, your city, your county. Ooh, I got the state, I got the county, but I don't have the city. Well, where are you operating from? Coral Springs. Well, why aren't you? Town of David. Well, why? So, important. Virtual offices, what are some of the considerations? How much space, how much time, who uses it, who comes in, what's the safety, all of those different things to think about. Is it worth it? Could I just have the office at home? Cost and overhead implications. What does it mean? If there's a leak, who's responsible for that leak? Is it you? Is it the landlord? If something's wrong with the parking lot, who's responsible for that? What does your lease say? What's the terms of your lease? What can you and can you not do? And your landlord or potential landlord is not the person who tells you, who often will tell you, yes, you can do this kind of business there, and no, you cannot. That is for you to determine, find out, and make sure that your business meets the zoning and permitting requirements of the area that you're leasing into. They will have you sign a lease. You've signed a lease. Oh, well, no, you can't put this there. Meh. Some cases, they may not even ask you. You want a bay? Okay, here's your bay. Sign. So be sure that you understand what that means. Manufacturers, suppliers, and distributors, what's your supply chain going to look like? Where are things going to be made? How are they going to be made? What's shipping going to look like? Right? We're still seeing supply chain issues now, right? Based on climate change as well, right? We saw huge supply chain issues during COVID. We started to kind of come out of them, and now we're seeing a lot of them again based on some of the things that's been happening globally as a result of climate change. International trade. Know the countries in which you are going to work. Everyone has their own laws, their own operations, and so on. Get with an international trade expert if you have no experience in particular, and even if you do, because the fines when you make mistakes, and some of them are just really ignorance, I didn't know, right? They can be huge, and they can cost you a lot of money in terms of international trade. Your third-party integrations, your feeds, and who owns what? I'm on Etsy, I'm on Spotify, I'm on, wherever, right? These third-party integrations. I'm using Thumbtack, I'm on Angie. What does that mean? What are the fees? That needs to be in your budget as well. So, budget. Funding and financial management considerations. Where's your money coming from? Okay, that's really important. I get a lot of calls and emails about, hey, I've got this great idea, but nobody's gonna give me any money, and that's not fair. And I get to be the wonderful person who says, but nobody has to give you any money, and life's not fair, right? So you should understand particularly where your seed capital is going to come from. In the early years, it's not necessarily the best thought process of getting a loan. Many of the lenders, they want to see past performance, they want to see sales, they want to see that you've been in business for 2 years or more and that you have had profits, right? Not completely zeroed out, and that's something to talk to your accountants about if you are, as you start. Sometimes they work on zeroing out your liabilities, right? And so in doing that, it shows as if you made no profit. That's just as bad because you've made no profit in 2 or 3 years. So you want to, again, that CPA, it's always critical to have discussions. You know what? These first years, I'm going to be bootstrapping, right? I'm going to just be reinvesting all of my profits so that I can grow this business. What do I need to do? Okay, help me to get myself on this path, whereas I project that I'm going to need $100,000 in 3 years. How am I going to build, one, my sales, right, and do the work of the business, but also to capture it in a way that makes it what we like to call a bankable business. A business plan is important, good personal credit, particularly in the early years, initial investment by you, skin in the game, owner investment. Collateral may be required, you may need to put something up, right? Equity investors, angels, venture capitalists, sometimes you've got a great product. We see early stage venture capital, sometimes with, and even angels with tech products. Seeing a lot of that happening. Record keeping hold of your financial statements, being sure that you have a separate bank account, keeping your receipts, your invoices, your statements, and your accounting may be self-maintained or professionally provided. You can outsource it, right? There are lots of platforms and tools. Probably the most common that everybody is familiar with is QuickBooks. Great tool, wonderful. I'm not necessarily endorsing QuickBooks, but it is very common. Or you can certainly work with a bookkeeper, right? But that's important to have an idea of how these things are going to be recorded and managed even before you start your business. So, business planning at a glance. Oh, no, forgot the background. And I'm just going to go through these quickly. So your intro should be brief. Here I am, name, rank, serial number, mission, statement, where values may be, who makes up my company. That's your intro. Your opportunity section. And it's laid out this way because when we do business planning with our customers, this is kind of the outline of the tool in which we use. So we kind of just modeled the slides based on that. So opportunity, why are you in business? You're in business, why are you in business? Or why are you going into that business? Gotta stay over here.
Been building scooters for a couple of years and everybody keeps telling me I need to make them.
All right, so there's a demand, or at least a word of mouth demand, right, and an interest. Excellent. Where are you going into the fitness business?
It's something we're interested in, and we want to venture out of our current job and like start something and build something that's ours.
Awesome. So entrepreneurship.
Not enough instructors.
Not enough instructors, yes. Excellent, very, very good. All right, so we know, right, why you're in business, what service you provide. Now, always remember that a good business is a solution, right? So solution to recreation, solution to fitness, not enough instructors. You gave the solution right there, right? The problem, not enough instructors. My solution, I'm going to become one of them and make a business out of it. Excellent. Your target market, who are your customers? Where are they? How old are they? How much money do they make? What do they like? What's the size of your market? Who are you doing this business for? And I hear people go, everybody. No, right? Because yes, everybody wears shoes, but not everybody wears heels. Not everybody wears flats. Not everybody wears tennis shoes. Not everybody wears sandals, right? So no, even Nike knows it's not necessarily for everybody, right? So you need to know who they are and where they are and how you're going to find them. How are you going to get them to buy from you? That's important. Who else is doing what you're doing? Are there other fitness folks that are doing the same thing? So how are you going to differentiate yourselves, right? And be out there like, you know what, we got this, we're going to make you fitter, or buy into us. This is a new technique, this is a new way, and so on. Scooters. People already are sitting at the edge of their seats waiting for you, right, to create those scooters so they can purchase them. So is there anybody else who's doing anything customizable like that? But maybe not. But so it's not necessarily direct competition, but competition that's adjacent or aligned or indirect could be those slingshots, right? That's the new gadgety kind of thing, or the ATVs. So thinking about what those sales and what that looks like and who are their customers might be something to look at as you're talking about competition. What competitive advantage do they hold, and how do you acquire some of that? What market share, and so on, and how do you overtake them? So your competition is to, I believe, three things. One, to understand who's doing what in the market, right, so that you can model, or you can, right, and also there's the opportunity for you to collaborate sometimes. Sometimes you have extra work, and you need someone in your field. Sometimes you need an extra instructor, right? Because somebody's on vacation. And so, you know what, the fitness center down the street, that lady is really, really good. So maybe we can work together from time to time. Maybe if she needs somebody, I can go to her, and so on and so forth. So the competitor can also be a collaborator, right? Depends on how you want to skin the cat. Or we don't skin cats, feed the bird. Okay, execution and operation. So now we're doing it, right? We've got to get it done. So our marketing sales, you've got to have a marketing plan. And I like to say a nice marketing mix is what works, right? So yes, your social media, but your traditional media, some print things. You know, we still print a few things, right? Radio, some people do listen to radio, localized radio, and it's not going to go anywhere. Some television ads, and they're not as expensive as they used to be, and there are many, many entities and resources that can help you to create the ads. Town of Davie, I just found out, actually has a program that quarterly you can get an ad completed, right? Brag about, talk about Davie. Let's talk this, yes. So lots of opportunities to maybe get something, and you know, in this digital world, you do want some kind of a nice forward-facing promotional piece. You've got your social media as well. You've got your out-of-home marketing, bus benches, bus wraps, right? Depending on who you're serving, they still work. Billboards, and they're not as expensive as they used to be. So your marketing plan, how will people learn from you? How will you get them to get the word out about your business? What resources will you need to get the word out about your business? Do you need a photographer, a videographer, a sound engineer, a graphics designer, a web developer? Probably at some point you will. All of these things, particularly now if you're creating a nice marketing mix. And then your sales plan as part of that media plan. How will you get them to buy from you? Right? Is it subscriptions? Is it coupons? Is it Groupon? want to get started? Is it I'm gonna show up? Am I gonna do some guerrilla marketing? I'm gonna start dancing in the town of Davia. You know, what do they call them now? Flash mobs, a flash mob. I mean, I don't know, right? Creative marketing, guerrilla marketing, but how do you get them to buy from you? Do I give out samples if it's food? So then, ooh, I like that. And today, once you sampled it, you know, do the promotional stuff. Location and facilities, where will your business operate from? We talked about that when we were talking about thinking about it and the legalities around it. But again, location, 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 right? Do you need a warehouse? Working with a client the other day, had a really good opportunity, but unfortunately, a lot of the work, and she does great work, happens in her garage. To get this contract, they were gonna have to come and do a facility inspection. The garage wasn't gonna cut it, right? So we gotta think about those types of things. True stories, all of the examples that I'm sharing with you today are things that are happening right now in terms of working with our clients and new businesses. Understand the permits, the licensing required for your operations. What technology will you use? Hardware, software, that's important as well. You know, is it worth going to Kinko's and Kinko's, we love you, but is it worth going to Kinko's every week to get things printed, let's say, than maybe leasing a high quality printer? I don't know, right? But those are things to think about in terms of some of your technology, equipment, and tools. Your milestones and matrices, how will you measure your business growth? How will you measure your business growth? How will you measure your business growth?
Active members.
I love that. Excellent. Active members. How will you measure your business growth?
Sales per week.
Sales per week. Absolutely. How will you measure your business growth?
If they show up, I guess.
If they show up, yes, absolutely. Membership and payments, the cha-ching as well, right? But money is not the only way to measure your business growth. And I'm so happy that nobody said that right away, right? Because yes, membership, sales, clicks on my website.
Yes.
I put up this website and you know what? 2 weeks, not one person. I sent out an e-marketing letter, 5 clicks. The next week, 10 clicks, 20 clicks, 30 clicks, 40 clicks. Oh my goodness, they're looking. Now I gotta figure out how to convert them from just lookers to purchasers, to customers, right? But yeah, so milestones, matrices, money, people, right? Viewership, engagement, invitations. How many people invite you to their corporate luncheon to come do a workout, get the crowd up and running, right? How many people are inviting you to do your water aerobics at whatever event and things of that nature to be an instructor? How many people are inviting you to a car or some kind of a mechanical trade show to display your product? Matrices. Who are you? Who's the company? Your mission, your vision, your values, your mission, what we're going to do, what we value while we're doing it, right? And the vision, when we accomplish it, this is what the world will look like, or this is what we will look like. Ownership and structure. Why did you select a LLC versus an S Corp versus a C Corp? And this is, again, putting the business plan together. Who are the partners? What's the ownership percentage? Right? Those are things that are important, particularly if you're looking at external financing. Certifications, list your IP. We have intellectual property. I have one company that I'm working with right now. She has a patent pending. She has a couple of trademarks. I mean, that's huge. That's big stuff, right? In terms of accomplishments and so on. Where are you in the business? Your startup, midpoint, established business. Who are you working with? What does your org chart look like? Now, you're planning a business and you're like, lady, I don't have it, it's just an idea, and I don't know, I mean, what do you mean an org chart? Really? It's me and it's us two, it's me and whoever, right? Well, what will it look like as you're looking for it to grow? So it may start off with the founders and you guys are teaching all the classes, but you're gonna hire some more instructors. Maybe you're going to branch out on some other type of exercise, something, I don't know. So maybe you're gonna be doing what's the new one, pickleball, as part of it as well. So now we have to expand for pickleball, things of that nature, right? So now my org chart started off with the 2 of us, and now I've got a pickleball instructor here, I've got an administrative assistant here, I've got a salesperson here that's going out. that should be there, and it can say to be announced, or, you know, in planning, work in progress, but you're thinking about where the team is, right? Solopreneurs often don't get very, very far, so you do need that team. And when you're starting up, I would say at the very least, an attorney. What's the other person? Yes, you know the answers. Attorney and accountant, for sure, as part of your team. They can have dotted lines, okay, because they're not necessarily in the business, but they're part of that team, right? And then I also like to suggest that, I call those the two critical relationships, but also suggest that you have someone who works with, in the creative space, right? So that graphics person, that website person, that brand development, maybe even social media person. If you can get all of that in one, you are blessed, right? But you may need to contract with different people, because everything is forward facing now. Everything is online, so everything needs to have a professional finish, right? And in some of the work that I do, I call it prettyfying. So everything needs to be prettyfied, right? So that's another important relationship. And the last relationship that I ask entrepreneurs to think about early on is administrative support. I got this, I'm doing it by myself, I got the books, I got this, I got that. And what do we think falls behind when when things start to get busy? What's the first thing you think that entrepreneurs let go of? When things start to paperwork. Yeah, I'll get those tax things done. Yeah, I'll get this done. Yeah, I'll fill out that form. Yeah, I'll do whatever. But you know what? I'm teaching 16 water aerobics classes every day, and when I get home, I'm tired. I've built 30 new things, right? 30 new scooters in the last week for this client. I'm tired. I'm not trying to get to that. Same with you guys. So that's important to think about as well. A management team, who are they? Your advisors, who are they? Always good to have advisors. I met with a group last week, and she said, my SCORE mentor said this. My Institute of Innovation member said this. My manufacturer mentor said this, and my attorney said this. And I said, you have surrounded yourself with a great group of advisors. She says, you can't get enough advice. And I thought, yes. And it sounds like they're all reputable, credible, and they know what they're talking about. So I was very impressed. Your financial plan, I'm not going to go all into a lot of details, but your forecast is very, 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 very important. You need to understand past, current, and projected. So businesses have seasonality, okay? So I see a lot of times where we're going to make $12,000 a month, and we're going to spend $3,000 a month. And that's forever, for perpetuity. That doesn't happen, right? Fitness, I don't know, is summer more thing than not, right? Water aerobics, I'm assuming summer might be more than not. I'm also knowing that on the east side, particularly during season, water aerobics is huge, because a lot of our folks that come down for the time, they enjoy that as a type of exercise. So again, for seasonality, are you going to sell more scooters around Christmas time? Because people are giving them as gifts? I don't know. But there is seasonality in every industry. And so you need to understand that. What are the months that I'm going to make good money? What are the months that it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge? What are the months where I'm going to be and it's really, really dry? And you need to plan for that. Okay? So what are your forecasts about? There's a typo there. What will your business do in the future? That's what you're looking at collecting. That's the overarching. Your revenue by month. Where will the money come from? We talked about multiple revenue streams a couple of slides back, right? What are the product lines, the service lines, the subscriptions, the financing, the investments? Right now, we recognize that those things are mostly goals based on research that you've done. You've done the shoe leather research. You've talked to your advisors. You've looked at industry reports, right? And then your expenses by your month. How much is light? How much is the internet? How much is payroll? How much are insurance? How much are all of these things? And then, of course, understanding your profit and loss. What will the business look like at the end of a year? And then moving into When do I break even? So all of the money that I've invested, when have I made enough that, oh, look, they're on the same level. I've broken even, right? So I've recouped all of that money that I've invested. I'm here. So now moving forward, everything should be profit. Who will support you in those areas? How will you manage your finances? That's that CPA bookkeeper person. Also, to maybe give a look at the books, to file any tax report, tax filings and things of that nature, to speak with you every year about any laws that change to benefit, right? I know one of my accountants called and said, hey, you guys should buy some EVs, right? $7,500 tax credit for buying an electric vehicle. We didn't know, but yeah, so different things. So your financial plans, how will you use the funds? Particularly if you're asking for a loan, it's important. And again, we talked about where the fund's going to come from. Understanding your statements, your profit, loss, your balance sheet, your cash flow statements, right? So your profit and loss, it's your business's total profit and loss. Your balance sheet, it's your asset, your liability, and any shareholder equity. Your cash flow statement is your income and outgoing monies. And so you explain income from operating, investing, and financial activities. So it's important that you have all of these. Working with a group right now that's looking at a loan, and our access to capital person, he said, I need 3 years of tax returns, I need the P&L, and I need the balance sheet up until July 30th of this year, right? They're actively working it now. So these things you should always have. You should have them current. And the only way to do that is if you're either using something that automatically tracks all of it, or you're doing it consistently. I'm almost done. This is just kind of a general, very, very general sheet of all of the areas that typically a business will capture. There may be many, many more based on your business, okay? But typically, these are the areas that we're looking at: your salaries, your wages, rent, utilities, those types of things in terms of expenses. So your top takeaways for starting a business: you want a short learning curve. Know your industry, know what you're doing, know the product, know the service, right? Do a feasibility study. Does it make sense? Right? Who's starting a business to go ahead and start selling VCRs? Or a VCR repair business? Leona will. All right. So I saw one not too long ago, and it said VCR repairs. God forgive me. And I said, and what is that a front for? What? It wasn't in the town of Dayton. But realistically, right? Is it feasible? Nobody's buying VCRs. You're not going to fix them. You're not. So be sure that you understand that. And people laugh because they believe that it's my idea. It's a great idea. People love my cakes or whatever. Okay, you make a really good cheesecake, one type of cheesecake. Are you going to open a whole store selling that one type of cheesecake that you've mastered? Assume that your chances of finding startup financing from a bank or public grants are, I'm going to even close the gap on that, okay? It's not as easy as sometimes people say and think. Consider your business on a part-time basis at first. Always a good idea to get an understanding of how it works, how it's operating, what are some things that you need to do before you create that exit strategy on the full-time. And you get your guidance from experts and mentors. You can't have, especially if they're credible. Guys, there's lots of credible people on YouTube as well. Not knocking any of that. But if you know somebody locally in your area and in your industry, connect with them, because our YouTube tutorials sometimes, yes, they've explained something based on their part of their world, right? Where they are. So laws in different states are different. So yeah, I can do blah, blah, blah in the state of blah, 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 but in Florida there may be some more regulations, or vice versa. So it's important to We have, the SBDC is here for you. Your Town of Davie CRA is here for you. You have SCORE that's also out there for you as well, right? Lots of community resources, and establish your business support network early on. Early on. Start thinking about who are the people that I can connect with and leverage and work with. And if you are not already registered with the SBDC and you would like one-on-one consulting, you can click on the QR code, or you can go to the website at sbdc.fau.edu, sign up for one-on-one consulting, and you will be assigned a consultant.
And don't forget you're here at Town Hall
Absolutely, thank you. And starting next week, we have Davie Days. So as part of our contracts and our relationship with the Town of Davie, I will be here. I'm the liaison with the Town of Davie, and I will be on site on one Tuesday a month, typically right next door, starting next week, usually in the afternoons. So if you sign up and you want to meet with me next week, just put that in your application, and because I do have some spots available next Tuesday afternoon. So with that, I want to thank you. Are there any quick questions for me? Business planning. I went about 5 minutes over than I wanted to. I apologize.
How much would you expect to spend on an attorney just, to review documents and create documents?
That's such a tricky question because it varies. What I have heard is that through some of the portals, this is what our clients are telling me, like is it LegalZoom, those types of things. They have some business opportunities as well for some of the basic business requirements, and a lot of the clients that I work with have been using that, and it seems to be working well for them because it's cost effective. Yeah, but I don't know. Attorneys charge anywhere from $200 to $400 an hour sometimes. It depends. Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Any other questions?
To follow up on that, what type of lawyer?
I would say a business attorney, right?
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, a business attorney. So someone who, and each one has specialties. So some of the business attorneys that I work with will deal with contracts and legal and
That's
the
what I meant,
startups.
like what you kind of
Yeah.
looking for. So there's even subcontracts to that.
Correct. And I'm trying to think, you have intellectual property attorneys as well within that subset. Yes, great question. Anybody else?
Anything, so as far as the LLC to limit your liability or put you away from the LLC financially, they say that you're not supposed to put your personal money into that business. So does that also apply for startup money if I were to transfer my own funds in that?
No.
So where does it start?
You start up. So you have to start a bank account with something, right? So that's where you're going to. Now you can make cash infusions, but what they're talking about is I'm not putting my money into this business account and I'm using it to do things that are not business related. I'm using it to pay my rent or to my personal rent, not the business rent, or I'm buying my new shoes with it or those types of things. But you do have to start with something. So I always say to folks, when you're ready to start the bank account, take as much as you possibly can and start the bank account with that, because then you already have money or capital, operating capital. Yeah. Any other questions? Please. Thank you. Questions, concerns, comments, or criticisms? I take those too. Alrighty. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being online. And I am going to turn over the magic clicker to Cheryl.
Thank you, and good morning, Andrea, for the warm welcome. Now that Andrea has gone over the steps to take your business from a concept to a viable plan, our goal is to assist you in taking your business plan to a brick and mortar establishment. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Cheryl Ellett, the CRA Program Manager with the Town of Davie. I'm here with our town's Economic Development Manager, Debbie Thomas. And today we will be discussing a guide to opening your business in the Town of Davie. As part of this presentation, we will be discussing the following. Selecting a location and why the town of Davie is an ideal place for you to start your business. Things to consider in specifying the business's proposed use, such as identifying your daily operations. Things to understand in zoning and how to identify your zoning needs. The business tax receipt and the certificate of use process. Building improvements and the necessary building permits. And opening and understanding your business and maintaining it after the process is completed. Can anyone tell me the most important thought factor in making your business successful? Andrea alluded to it before, those 3 key words. What is it?
Location?
That's it. Location, location, location. I'm sure at some point you've heard the importance of being located on prime real estate immediately facing major roads, but the truth is that not every business requires that type of frontage. Furthermore, depending on your business, you may find yourself more concerned about your overall location with the proximity to the airport, Port Everglades, or the seaport, or a marina. The town of Davie has many things to offer a new business. The town is centrally located in Broward County. Our borders touch 10 different municipalities, including the Seminole Reservation. And as you can see on the map, we are accessible from I-595, I-75, the Florida Turnpike, and the Sawgrass Expressway. We are also just minutes away from Miami or West Palm Beach's ports or marinas as well. We are also in close proximity to the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, Port Everglades, and once again, we are also near Miami and Palm Beach. Believe it or not, our borders go all the way out to the marinas located just off of State Road 84 and I-95. We have 5 higher educational institutions, which is awesome to recruit fresh new talents. They are McFadder Technical Center, Nova Southeastern University, Florida Atlantic University, Broward County, just to name a few. Furthermore, we have our home to a wide array of industries and industry leaders. So not only have we had over 2 million square feet of an industrial square footage built out in the last 5 years, but we also have over 900 acres of industrial zone land right here in the town of Davie. Our diverse range of industries include healthcare and biomedicine. We have a teaching hospital with HCA, and we also have biotech leaders with Teva. Under manufacturing and distribution, as previously stated, within the last few years, we've had a significant increase in industrial warehouse space being built. This includes Bridgepoint 595 and the Davie Business Center, located just east of Davie Road, right before 595. With aerospace and aviation, we have 3 major industry leaders with Kellstrom, Embraer, and Boeing. As far as education, as previously mentioned, we have 5 higher educational institutions, but we also have over 30 K-12 schools, which is important when considering employees and their families. For many are unaware that the town's boundaries go as far east as State Road 84, once again near I-95, but we have Rossi Ole and the Bradford Marine facilities located just right there on State Road 84. Lastly, we are home to various integrated technology, which includes information technology and technology for business solutions. And we also have Copylight, which offers various forms of business solutions right here in Davie. Overall, the town of Davie is an ideal location to start your business, relocate your business, or just to come and join us right here in the town. We want to help you thrive, and we're so excited to have you here to join us. Next, I would like to introduce Debbie Thomas, and she'll take you through the next part of this presentation.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Andrea. So a little bit about myself. My name is Debbie Thomas. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the town of Davie. Before I started in the Community Redevelopment Agency and doing economic development, I was in planning and zoning. And for those of you who may or may not know what planning and zoning does, part of their function is reviewing business tax receipt applications for new businesses. So I was that person that would get these business applications, and sometimes we'd have to say, I'm sorry, this business cannot be at this location. And sometimes we would say, okay, let's try to refine your letter a little bit to make it work. So this information that we have here today is information I feel that business owners really should know, because it will help you better select a location where you can carry out the vision of your business. So Cheryl mentioned a couple of bits of information regarding the town and why we think it's a great location for you to locate your business here. But there are a couple of other factors I want you to consider. So you have to specify your use. There have been so many applications I've gotten where somebody would say, hey, I have this great site and I want to do tutoring, but then other times I want to do events, and then other times I want to do gymnastics, and then other times I want to do public gatherings. And it's unfortunately, even though all of those are great ideas, you have to pick one. You have to specify your use. As part of doing that, you want to consider your daily operations compared to the industry that you're in. So for instance, you may be in a biotechnology industry, but you may not need a lab. You may not need a warehouse. You may really just need an office space for your specific administrative duties, if that's what you want to do. So at that point, you're not looking at a warehouse space. You're not looking at a light industrial space. You are looking at an office space. The other thing is you want to narrow in your scope. A great example of this is with restaurants. Some people may say, hey, and like Andrea was saying before, I make the best key lime pie, like super awesome key lime pie. But is your key lime pie restaurant going to be a dine-in place? Is it going to be takeout? You may think that you'll figure this stuff out as you go through the process, but unfortunately, you'll need to make that determination sooner than later, because not every property is going to allow for a fast food restaurant compared to a sit-down restaurant. So you'll want to think about this early on. The next thing is, as part of you considering your daily operations and the industry that you're in, you may find yourself eligible for different types of incentives. Now, Andrea said earlier that sometimes, it is hard to go to government or go to other agencies and say, hey, I have this great idea, now fund me. But every now and then you will find an opportunity that may be specific to your demographic, either as a business owner or the type of industry that you're in, or even the location that you're in, where you can find funding from Broward County or state of Florida or even federal funding. Our relationship with SBDC will allow you to contact SBDC and say, hey, this is my idea. Do you know of any resources? Do you know of any eligible opportunities for me? And they, at no cost to you, will be able to help you identify what you may be eligible for. This is based on our relationship with SBDC, and we are really proud to have them as a partner because we know that they can help in that regard. The next part is understanding zoning. Has anyone here ever heard of zoning?
Oh, yeah.
No. Land use, anything?
Of course.
Yes, kind of. Okay, this is the nerdy side of me. Zoning and land use. I spent an entire career doing zoning and land use. And basically, what that is determining how to regulate how the land is used. So there's two parts of zoning and land use. The first part is, like I said before, land use. That's a general category that says this area is supposed to only have commercial, or only have residential, or only have industrial. We see this a lot in South Florida, that areas are very well planned out. For instance, if you're going to go to a residential area, you are not going to see an industrial building in your neighborhood because it's not zoned for that. The zoning further specifies what type of commercial is allowed. So let's say the land use is commercial. The zoning will say, okay, we can have either a business office as a type of commercial use, or maybe we can have a grocery store or a salon. Similar in the sense that they're both commercial, but they're two drastically different types of uses. Zoning also specifies what type of features you can have, and I'll get into that in a second. So how do you know whether or not your property is zoned for this? Let's say that you are driving through looking at locations and you have this great idea in your mind and you say, you know what, I want to be next to universities, this is a great spot for my gym, this is a great spot for my aquatic business, I'll get students, I'll get this, I'll get that. But you don't know if this site can even allow your use. And you don't want to sign a contract, you don't want to sign a lease, you don't want to start thinking of modifications until you know the answer to that question. So you can either informally call or email planning and zoning and say, hey, I have this use, I'm going to this site, can you please let me know if this use is permitted? Or perhaps you want something a little bit more concrete. You can always ask for a zoning determination letter. And that's where you have the opportunity to explain in good detail what your business entails and have planning and zoning staff evaluate your specific use. People often choose that option when it comes to finding a lender or signing a lease, just because you want to have something concrete before you move into any further steps. And by the way, this part of it is really designed to be a workshop, so if you have any questions as I'm presenting, please feel free to stop me and ask. I'm also going to go over how to use a Broward County Property Appraiser's website to find a zoning designation for a property. That will be coming up in a minute. So as I started to say earlier, zoning does not just determine how you use the land. It also determines what structures you can put in there. You may find a site and say, you know, I think it would be a fantastic idea to have this whole outdoor studio option. And come to find out, you can't put anything else outside. You can't put a gazebo, you can't put a patio, you can't put whatever it is. Or maybe you want a restaurant and there's only 3 parking spaces and you say, well, it's just me and my staff and people will come in and go. But restaurants have very specific parking requirements. So all of these things are things you have to consider when finding the land use of the zoning for your property, whether or not it will allow your use. Okay, so has anyone ever heard of the Property Appraiser's website, Broward County Property Appraiser? Yes, okay. So you're familiar with BCPA. I have a small video here that walks you through how to find your zoning designation, but I do have the steps listed on the side, and I'll go ahead and attest to those right now because it doesn't really walk you through the video. So the first thing you're going to do is go to www.bcpa.net. You're going to select property search. The letters on the screen are a little bit blurry, but we can give you access to this a little bit later and it'll clarify the letters. But you'll go to property search, you'll select address, you'll type in the full address, you'll select view maps, and then you'll see a toolbar on the left-hand side that enables different layers. The layer that you're going to select is called City Zoning Codes. So this is the video, you see it's at bcpa.net. Then you get to property search. You're going to select address. You're going to type in the full address starting with your numerical value. This address here is the former, the old town hall site and rodeo grounds. When you get to street, you want to make sure if it's 42nd Street, you leave off the ND and just type in 42. You're going to pick the street type and then the municipality. It will bring you to this page. You'll select View Maps. And that layer list on the left is what we're looking at. You're going to select the option that says City Zoning Codes. And then you'll see these letters appear. So we'll zoom in and see it says RICTC, which you can't read because it's very blurry, but that's a zoning designation. So if you were to look at this designation, RICTC, these may just sound like letters to you. But if you were to contact planning and zoning and say, hey, this is my use, where can I do this? They will give you a permitted use chart. That will identify your use. So let's say, again, you're an office. They'll give you a use chart with a table of permitted uses that show all of the zoning designations of the town. So you'll go to RACTC and you'll see, is zoning permitted? Is it P for permitted? Is it N for no? If it's N for no, you know to move along. Any questions on that? Yes.
So if you're gonna do a home business, are there regulations and restrictions on exactly what that is?
Yes, there are.
I'm sure there are.
So, in the legislature in the recent years actually lightened up some of the restrictions. It used to be a lot more regulated where it would say, you know, you can't sell from your home, you can't have employees from your home, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And over the last 2 years, a lot of that has changed. So as Andrea was saying earlier, you'll still need to have a business tax receipt application. And part of that business tax receipt application, they will give you a printout that says, I certify that I am not doing X, Y, and Z things in there. I will comply to the code section, and it tells you what you can and cannot do. Now, it has been very flexible. So I would suggest contacting business tax, and I'll go over that contact information, but they'll tell you exactly what it is you can and cannot do. It used to be very, very restrictive. Like, you can't have anybody outside of yourself that's an employee, and now some of that has lifted. So it's to your benefit. But to answer your question, yes. Something like, let's say that you are manufacturing out of your home. That may be something like what Andrea said before. You may be able to use your home as an office so that you can do consultations or whatever, but you may not be able to have, you know, toxic chemicals in your house and things like that. But that's a very good question. Any other questions before I move on about this? Okay. All right, building improvement. So you found the perfect site. You find the right location. You're like, this is where I want to be, except for the fact that you need to make all kinds of renovations inside. You're like, oh, I can see the lights changing, and I can see us having TVs on every wall, and so on and so forth. Or maybe you're a restaurant, and you say, I'm going to have my kitchen here, and I'm going to have my seating here. And it sounds great when you think about it, but you're not always able to fully assess how long it's going to take for you to get to that point. So the first thing you want to do is when you find a location that you like, imagine your business there as is. Ask yourself, is this place move-in ready for me? Can I start operations here now? If the answer is no, then you're going to want to consider what types of renovations you'll need. Generally speaking, anything relating to the structure of the property, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, even signage, accessory uses like patios and porches are all things that you will need to get a building permit for. You are not going to want to start any of these renovations until you have that building permit in hand. But before you even do that, I would suggest contacting a professional. Get an architect, an engineer, a contractor, somebody to come and scope the site with you and tell them what your vision is. Hey, I want to add more lights because I want to have a display area, or I'm going to have a gym, so I want different features. I want a different type of lighting. I want X, Y, and Z. And then they'll be able to tell you how much that's going to cost. I have seen a number of amazing businesses, the best entrepreneurs. They'll come and they'll say, hey, I have this great idea. They'll sign a lease and go down the process and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much this was going to cost me. I didn't realize how much time. 6 months have gone by and I'm still doing interior work. So it's to your advantage to consider this early on. Once you do that, once you contact your professional, then they can help you assess your permit fees, your time, the amount of money that you need up front. And like I said before, you want to be sure that you don't start any of this until you actually get your permits in hand. Because if you don't, let's say you make all these renovations, you will find yourself with fines. You will find yourself in a position where perhaps you've made these changes and now whatever you're doing was not allowed. You couldn't do that. And if you had to resell the property, it just gets complicated. So do it right the first time. Do the work once you get the permits. Business tax receipt, so we've heard a lot about this term. Essentially what it is, it's a taxation on the use in which you are using, you are operating your business in. In other words, if you are an office space, if you are an accountant, the local government, state government, county, federal government, they all want to make sure that you are valid, you are allowed to be at the location that you're at, and that you pay your taxes specific for your business. Certificate of use application runs with the business tax receipt. It basically ensures that you are compliant with the zoning. So both of these applications in the town of Davie run together, and they are given at the same time, but they are still two different applications. The business tax receipt application is something you can obtain anytime, and I highly recommend that you go on our website. As soon as you become serious about starting your business, download this checklist. Just because you get the checklist doesn't mean you have to go through the process, but it helps you understand what documents you need, because these documents are not only what you need for the town, but these are also what you may need for the state and for the county as well. So for instance, as part of your business tax receipt application, you have to give your SunBiz information, you have to give your DBPR licensure, you have to provide an affidavit of inventory if you're selling merchandise, or a fictitious name registration if you choose to have a DBA. These are things that are great to know, because you may not even know you need this until you see it on a checklist. The next part of that is, once you have all of the stuff complete, you will submit it together and it'll go through zoning review, which is what I was talking about before. Somebody from planning and zoning will look at your application, they'll look at your description of your business, the floor plan that you will be providing, and assign your use or your description to a specific use and say whether or not you are allowed to do that business at that site. After that, you're going to consider if you need permits. If you do, this will be the time to start pulling those permits, and it will go through building review and then inspections. You will have building inspections and fire inspections as part of this process. You're not going to want to schedule those inspections until your site looks like it is ready to operate tomorrow. In other words, if you're walking in here and there's just a big empty shell, and in your mind you imagine a register there and a seating area here and lights and blah, 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 you want to put all of that stuff in there before you have any of these inspections. It needs to look like it is ready to go. And then the last part of this is you get your business tax receipt. Yay, you've completed the process, you've done a great job. You want to open your business, but not before you actually obtain your business tax receipt. Some people will say, well, I'm having my inspections, I'm almost there, so I'm going to open. No, you don't know if you're going to pass your inspections. You don't know if everything's going to go well. So don't count your chickens before they hatch. Wait until you actually get the business tax receipt in hand, and then you can open your business. After that, you're going to want to maintain all of the licensure that you've obtained as part of your business tax receipt application. The town of Davie does send a renewal every July, because our applications run from October and expire in September. So come July, you will start getting renewals in the mail so that you know to pay for it for the next year. I imagine that the county has something similar, and so does the state. You also may need to schedule regular inspections. I know for us, our fire inspectors go out yearly to evaluate your site. So this is stuff that you want to stay on top of. And the last point is you want to make sure that you keep up the appearance of your site. Keep it clean, keep it well maintained. If you have things that you need to fix, get on top of it, fix it. You don't want to be getting regular visits from code compliance because you're not maintaining the site that you worked so hard to acquire. You want to keep your business clean and welcoming for all of your clients to come, because I know you've worked so hard to open this business, so you definitely want to make sure it stays welcoming for anybody to come and render your services. As part of our presentation, we have a couple of handouts for you. I'm glad we do, because the letters are so blurry. I apologize for that. But we have two different handouts. One is a how to do business in the town guide. It is a very simplified version of what we've discussed, but on the back of it provides all of the phone numbers for the departments that you'll need to contact going through the business tax receipt process. The other document that you have is our investor's guide. This is just some information about the town of Davie. Believe it or not, this information may be very helpful in determining who your target audience is. As Andrea said earlier, you may think, oh, my target audience is everyone. And realistically, you may find that, well, no, you need more college students, or you need more individuals in healthcare that will like your product, or whatever it may be. So this investor's guide just gives a brief breakdown on the demographics and the industries that are within the town. It also has that map that shows our location in respect to our neighboring municipalities and other areas of interest. Any questions?
So if you're running like an e-commerce business from home, you're not having customers actually there, do you still need a business tax receipt?
Yes, you do.
And are there any permits that are required to like, sell products out of your house?
So what you will do is, as part of your business tax receipt application, I want to say that there is going to be an affidavit of inventory that accompanies that as well, specifically for home-based businesses. Okay, but it's going to depend on what you're selling, because like I said, the legislative language has changed recently, so I don't know off the top of my head exactly what you can and cannot sell. But to answer your question, you'll need the business tax receipt. In terms of permitting, you won't unless you are making changes to your home to account for that. So let's say you say, I have a garage, I never use it, I'm gonna convert it into a room and make it an office. Well, you're gonna need a permit for that. If you're going to change out your doors, if you're gonna do anything structural, electrical, mechanical, or plumbing related. Okay, anybody else? So we'll be here, Cheryl, Andrea, myself, Leona, we'll all be here in case you guys have any other questions that you want to specifically approach us about. If not, our contact information is up here. We have business cards to hand out as well. We are so excited that you decided to spend your Wednesday morning with us, and we hope that you learned something. And again, we remain available. Thank you. Have a good one.